today. So let's say shalom first to the family, Israel, everybody. We're going to go into the scripture today. We're going to talk about speaking in tongues. A lot of y'all, you know what I'm saying, that, go to church, they'll get the hunna, the shunna, but then you can't tell us anything that you said. You are an abomination. If you go to church and you're speaking, talking about hunna, shunna, you are an abomination. Point blank, period. So what we're going to do is go into scripture here. This is 1 Corinthians. Shalom his. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And then I'm going to just start reading. It says, follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy. So the Most High is saying, rather is prophesy. For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men. So that unknown tongue, we're not talking to men. And it says, but unto God. For no man understandeth him. Howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries. And then it says here in verse 3. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 3. It says, but he that prophesieth speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort. So what it's saying here in verse 3 is that a lot of people, what they do is they're speaking into men, edification and exhortation and comfort. And then verse 4 says, he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself. So the unknown tongue, the hanana shanana, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 4. He that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself. But he that prophesieth edifieth the church. So prophesying is much more powerful than speaking in tongues. Now verse 5, I'm going to keep reading. Would that ye all spake with tongues, but rather that ye prophesied. Now he's saying that I would rather that all of you speak with tongues, but I'd rather that you prophesy, because prophesying edifies the church rather than just speaking. And then it says, for greater is he that prophesied than he that speaketh with tongues. Okay? Now check this out. For greater is he that prophesieth than, it's a comparison, than he that speaketh with tongues. So hanana shanana, and then I say, hey, the direction that this church is going is not where the Most High is directed. That is more important than you running around the church talking about hanana shanana. You don't even know what you're saying. Now I'm gonna read that again. I'm gonna start over verse 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 5. I would that ye all spake with tongues, but rather that ye prophesied. For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues. Greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues. So you can hunna all day, and as soon as I come out and start prophesying, the power's gonna lie where the Most High is saying in his word. The man who prophesies. Now, let me finish that verse here. And it says, but rather that ye prophesy, for greater is he that prophesied than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret. So when you hanana shanana, you better interpret that hanana shanana. Why you need to interpret hanana shanana? Why you need to interpret that? That the church may receive edifying. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verse 5. I'm gonna start that again. I would that ye all spake with tongues, but rather that ye prophesy. For greater is he that prophesied than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret. You must interpret the hanana shanana, that the church may receive edifying. Now, brethren, this is verse 6. Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you? Except I shall speak to you either by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophesying, or by doctrine. And even things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped? Shalom, y'all, what's up? Thanks for that, man. This is the headband. I actually made this myself. Appreciate it. Yeah, I won't go around headbutting Esau, but you know, I sure feel like it a lot of times, man. Let's go ahead and start with verse 7 again. Here it says, and even the things with Salaki, verse 6. Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you, except I shall speak to you either by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophecy, or by doctrine? So if I just go to you and go, God bless you, you don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm going to go ahead and speak with tongues, what shall I profit you, except that I speak by revelation, or by knowledge, or by prophesying, or by doctrine? Verse 7. And even things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped? For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? So likewise, ye, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak it into the air. So when you how it says, so likewise ye, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? When you 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 9, how shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak into the air. Verse 10, there are, it may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them without signification. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, and he that speaketh shall be barbarian unto me. Even so ye, verse 12, even so ye, for as much as ye are zealous of spiritual gifts, seek that ye may excel to the edifying of the church. Okay? Now, when you you need to interpret that. Now it says 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 13, it says, wherefore let him that speaketh in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 14. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. What is it then? I will pray with the spirit, and I will pray with the understanding also. I will sing with the spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also. Else when thou shalt bless with the spirit, how shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned say amen? And at thy giving of thanks, seeing he understandeth now what thou sayest. For thou verily givest thanks well, but the other is not edified. So basically, when you're speaking in tongues, you need to edify. It needs to be edifying. Where did we leave off here? Okay, let's go to verse 18. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 18. It said, let's start at 17. For thou verily givest thanks well, but the other is not edified. So when you're speaking in tongues, you need to be careful to make sure that people are being edified. You need to interpret what you're you need to interpret that. If you can't, it's an abomination. You're not edifying the church. Now verse 18, it says, I thank God I thank my God, Slakia. I speak with tongues more than ye all. Verse 19. This is Paul speaking. Yet in the church I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown language. Then hanana shanana hanana shanana. Now let me read it again. Verse 19. Yet in the church I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown language. That hanana shana is not going nowhere because you don't understand what I'm saying. Verse 20, 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 20. Brethren, be not children in understanding. Get off the milk. Get you some of that nice meat, that steak, chop it up. Howbeit in malice be children, but in understanding be men. Right? So the Lord is telling you, don't be little children in knowledge, because it's here. You got it right here. So when people are hunting and shunning and hunting, don't let them just sit down and not say nothing. You need to have them either interpret what they're saying, or they need to shut up. Period. Now, let me go ahead and continue reading verse 21. In the law, it is written. Wait a minute. This is 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 14, chapter 21, 14, verse 21, it says, in the law, it's written. In the law, it's not done. In the law, it is written, with men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto his people. Wait, people say that Christ came, he did away with the law, but 1 Corinthians 14 and 21 is telling you, this is after he died. He's telling you here, in the law, it is written. I thought it was done. Okay, they killed that. Let's keep going. In the law, it is written, with men of other tongues, those Gentiles, and other lips will I speak unto this people. And yet, for all that will they not hear me, said the Lord. Wherefore, tongues are for a sign, not to them that believe, but to them that believe not. But prophesying serveth not for them that believe not, but for them which believe. So prophesying is for the believer. The tongues is for, it looks like tongues is for a sign, right? It says in 1 Corinthians 14, 22. If therefore the whole church become together in a place, shall speak with tongues, and there come in those that are unlearned or unbelievers, will they not say that ye are mad? So when you have unbelievers coming in and you're talking about hanana, which in the church we have seen this for years. People always leave the church when y'all start hanana, you're not breaking it down what you're saying, and people are like, I don't know what they saying. Well, I would probably leave too, because you're not edifying anybody. And this is what 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 21 is saying. I'll read it again. In the law, Slakia. If therefore, this is not verse 21, verse 23. If therefore the whole church be come together into one place, and shall speak with tongues, and there come in those that are unlearned or unbelievers, will they not say that ye are mad? But if I prophesy, and there come in one that believeth not, or one unlearned, he is convinced of all. He is judged of all. You see what I mean? Now I'm gonna read 25 here and end it off. And it says, and thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. And so falling down on his face, he will worship and report that God is in you of a truth. So let's keep going. Let's keep going, because this is good right here. 1 Corinthians chapter 14. If y'all want to get in y'all churches people speaking in tongues, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 is what you need to use. Have your pastor break it down. Read it. Why don't they read it in church? All right, here we go. 1 Corinthians 14 and 26. How is it then, brethren, when you come together, every one of you hath a psalm, hath a doctrine, hath a tongue, hath a revelation, hath an interpretation. Let all things be done unto edifying. So when you're speaking in tongues, you need to interpret so that it edifies. Not just hunting and shunning and hunting and shunning so people can be like, ooh, they filled with the Holy Ghost. No, they filled with the devil. That's what it is. You need to interpret that. Let all things be done unto edifying. This is 1 Corinthians 14 and 26. How is it, brethren, when ye come together, every one of you hath a psalm, hath a doctrine, hath a tongue, hath a revelation, hath an interpretation? Let all things be done unto edifying. All things, whether it be speaking in tongues, whether it be prophesying, let it be done unto edifying. Now, verse 27, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 27. If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by 2, or at the most by 3. Now, this is what you need to be doing. And that by course, let one interpret. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 27. I'm going to read it again. If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by 2, or at the most by 3, and by course, and let one interpret. Okay, now check it out. What it says here in verse 28. Would there be no interpreter? Let him keep silence in the church, and let him speak to himself and to God. So, right? You ain't edifying. You know what you need to do? I'm going to go ahead and read it again. Verse 28, 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 28. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silence in the church. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silence in the church, and let him speak to himself and to God. Now, these tongues that we're talking about here, these tongues are definitely the tongues that are not these tongues are actually different languages, because you had Israelites speaking different languages. Do I need to go back to the verse where it proves it? Let's go to verse 21. 1 Corinthians 14, 21. And the Lord is written with other tongues and other lips. Men of 1 Corinthians 14 and 21 with other lips will like his people, and yet for all that will they not hear me, said. Okay, check this out. Back to 28. If they're interpreting to and God, verse 27, read this again. If you unknown to be by 2 or by 3, and that one interpret. You need to have an interpreter. You can in tongues in church. All right. Now, but the interpreter, let him keep in silence in the church. If there's no interpreter, shut up. Let him speak to himself and God. Let the prophet speak. Let the prophet speak. 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 29. Let speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Let the prophet speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. Y'all say God only God can judge me. Well, this is righteous judgment. This book is righteous. This is righteous. We're talking about righteous men, prophets that are able to edify, prophesy, edify the church. You see what I mean? Let the prophets speak 2 or 3, and let the others judge. If anything be revealed to another that sits by, let the first hold peace. For ye may all prophesy one by one, that all may learn, and all may be comforted. And the spirits, the prophets are subject to the prophets, right? Khan. Yeah, I guess mine was breaking up a little bit too, but I'm not sure what's going on. Hopefully it corrects itself. I know I'm live, so hopefully it corrects itself once the live gets off, the live feed get off. And but let me go ahead and keep reading, man, because it's beautiful here, man. And it says 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 29, let the prophet speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. If anything be revealed to another that sitteth by, let the first hold his peace. Verse 31, for ye may all prophesy one by one, that all may learn, and all may be comforted. Verse 32, and the spirits of prophets are subject to prophets. All right. And verse 33, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. So if you in the church talk about with no interpreter, you don't have any judges, you don't have any, at least 2 interpreters, then that is confusion. 1 Corinthians 14:33, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. All right. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. Right? So there's confusion in your church. It's not a church of saints. Right? Verse 34. Pretty a lot of people won't like this one. Let your women keep silence in churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also said in the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. So you got women preachers, they call women prophets, pastors. You guys are breaking the law. It's confusion. The Most High is definitely not there, because 1 Corinthians 14 tells us. 1 Corinthians 14 and verse 33 says, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. All right. 34, let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, also as also saith the law. The law was done. It is confirmed here in 1 Corinthians 14 verse 35. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. What? Came the word God out from you, or came it unto you only? If any man think of himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord. So when we say we keep the law, these are the commandments of the Lord. 1 Corinthians 14 and 35. No, 37. 1 Corinthians 14 and 37. But if any man think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you are the commandments of the Lord. But if a man be ignorant, guess what? Let him be ignorant. 1 Corinthians 14 and 38. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. And I'm going to hit here in verse 40 here. It says, wherefore, brethren, covet to prophesy, and forbid not to speak with tongues. Ooh. Okay. Forbid not. Wherefore, brethren, covet to prophesy, and forbid not to speak with tongues. Let all things be done decently and in order, because the Most High is all about order, right? Now I know a lot of people are going to have issues with 1 Corinthians 14 verse 34, 35, because it says that your woman keeps silence in the churches. It's not permitted to them to speak, but they're commanded to be under obedience. Let your women keep silence in the churches. Why do you have so many women preachers and so-called prophets? It's against the law. If they're in a church, if they're a woman head of a church, that is not a body of the saints. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 33. If a woman is preaching, she is breaking the law. This is in the Bible. 1 Corinthians chapter 14 says, "Let your verse 34, let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience." Like it. Also the law. "And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church." And the reason why that was said was because this in verse 36. What? Came the word of God out from you, or came it unto you only? So the woman, the reason why she's supposed to keep silence is because the Lord did not give her the word. He did not give her law. It was given to Adam. She was told the law. It came into her from Adam. It wasn't given her. But the whole thing for this whole lesson today was just about 1 Corinthians in tongues, man. Like, you guys in these churches, man, question your pastors, ask your pastors to bring out 1 Corinthians chapter 14 if they start speaking in tongues. Anybody speaking tongues, you need to drill them and question them about why they're doing it with no interpreter. You let them know you don't understand what they're saying. You're not edifying the body right now. Just 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Read the whole chapter. 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Speaking in tongues is an abomination if you do not have an interpreter. You need to be quiet. Keep silence. You can't in church. Just show people that you can do it. It's devilish. It's deceiving. It's very deceiving, because 1 Corinthians chapter 14 tells you how to speak in tongues, when to speak in tongues, and why. And there's order. There's no confusion with the Most High. There is the Most High. Let me bring that out again. 1 Corinthians 14:33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. So once again, in verse 34, let your woman keep silence in churches. So if your woman is preacher prophesying, then your church is not a saint-filled church. It's just a church, but it's not a church of the saints. See, that's the issue. We have a lot of churches, not churches of saints, because you got people wanting to talk with no interpreters. And you got women that are speaking out of order, and they're talking, "Oh, I know God. Oh, I know the Lord. Oh, shut up. You're out of order. You're not supposed to, according to the law." The law. And the problem is that when we start disobeying, when our forefathers started to disobey God's law, we lost a lot of our strength as men. Number one, we lost a lot of our strength as far as the head of the household, even the respect from the women. You know what I'm saying? So now that you have a lot of ideas now where they say, "Oh, well, women can do what men do." Well, they can't. They can't do much of anything a man can do. But at the same time, there's order. There's order with the Most High. Decency and in order. Let everything be done in decency and in order. The Most High deals in order. All right. So this is exactly why I want to bring this out. But that was it on that 1 Corinthians chapter 14. Just basically went the whole chapter, man. You guys read 1 Corinthians chapter 14, get understanding on speaking in tongues, and the women in the churches that are not allowed to speak. So with that, I want to say Shalom, Israel, Barakatah, all praises the Most High Yahweh and his Son, Most High Hamashiach Hawashai, Bashem Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, praises Kwam Yashrala, 12 tribes rising up. I'm my face a little perspired right now, but just want to say shalom, man. Shalom to the family, and go ahead and read 1 Corinthians. For all y'all that are watching this video that don't understand what I'm saying, go ahead and read 1 Corinthians chapter 14 about speaking in tongues. Those churches, if they're speaking in tongues without an interpreter, those churches are not filled with saints, and you either need to correct your pastor or find a new church that actually edifies the body, because speaking in tongues about with no interpreter is not edifying the body, right? Like Paul said, I'd rather speak 5 words in known language you can understand in 10,000 in an unknown language, because it will edify. You can actually understand what I'm saying. It's edifying. Well, with that again, Shalom. Our praises to the Most High. Kwam Yashala to the 12 tribes. Signing out here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey, we'll see y'all later. Rakatha.